Hello, I'm Dina Henning. I am the founder and head component designer for Amoracast. I say head designer because, in fact, everyone in the office designs jewelry and has creative input into every process in creating a new component design here. Amoracast is managed and run by all women. In fact, I'm very, very proud of. I think it has created a unique environment which I love working in, and everyone here is like family. I'm often asked at shows or when I meet new clients, how did you come up with your component designs? And it's actually very easy. I've been designing jewelry for over a decade before I started creating components. And how I got into doing that was sometimes I just needed components that had a specific function, and I couldn't find that. Oftentimes components out there would be just single use, either it be a clasp or it's a pendant and no other use. And so I instinctively know what a jewelry designer would be looking for in a specific component. So that's easy. That comes to me instinctively. With regard to articulating my designs, actually, I've studied fine arts ever since I was very young, and I am an amateur painter. So being able to articulate my ideas and thoughts on paper comes very easily to me. So today I want to show you how I come up with component designs. Most of the components I have they look like pictures, they're drawn, and that draws from my background as a fine artist. I've studied fine arts since I was young, and it just comes to me naturally. So, for instance, trees, leaves are very easy for me to do, and branches, you'll see many of my things are branches and leaves. So I could sit there all day long as my kids are asleep in the car, waiting for food to be delivered. I'm drawing. And then I see parts of that, and I'm thinking maybe I could do something like this at this angle, and I would twist it, and I'd modify. I'm thinking like this. And so I would draw. So that would be a sketch, an idea. Sometimes I would do leaves. And it'd be free form, not planned. And then I'd think about it, and sometimes I would go back to modify. For instance, I think I'd like to be able to drop something here, as most jewelry designers would. And then maybe this, but maybe this should be shorter. So I modify, and I don't change both sides. I take a look to see which side is better, and then I would modify and use my trusty eraser. And so I do something like that. And oftentimes I would see if there's balance and see if that works. If it worked, here. Or I'm not sure about it, I leave it. And sometimes I do approximate shapes. Very fortunate in that I'm fast. I have an idea that, from my experience as a jewelry designer for years, some things work better in symmetry. And I like components that allow multi-purpose. And how I got started was I designed jewelry, and there were not many components out there that you could use other than, say, a pendant. And I couldn't hook it up. So I started designing my own components. So
So for instance, in my thinking, I like to have it empty here so that I could perhaps hook it here and have something drop off here or this way. And I like to leave this open so that it could be perhaps something to do, a chandelier shape. So as I'm designing, I'm thinking of these things, and I go on that. I go with that, and sometimes right and left are not the same, and I sometimes think, okay, is it better this way? Perhaps this way. And if I'm somewhat happy, I use my black marker. I draw that in afterwards. And I don't worry too much about left and right at this point, because Photoshop, I could just mirror image. So I'm very fast in that way. And many of the things are drawn. Then there are ones where I've given, say, for instance, more thought. I have to give it more thought and I want to make it look random but multi-purpose. So I know that I want to be able to hang this way, and perhaps this way, and this way, and perhaps there. Then I go random, knowing that I've anchored these points. And so maybe I would do that, and maybe so I do that. I give an approximate sketch, and then I clean it up afterwards, so that when it comes out, I know that, in fact, it looks irregular, but it's balanced. It will be weight balanced, as in this piece that I've got. And I'm going to put a video to show where the balance is. It is very interesting. But that's how I design most of them. And then it goes to someone who does the casting and the models. Quite often, I scan it and then I use Photoshop. Sometimes I do lots of them, and then I see the ones that could work, and I darken that. And oftentimes I use my photocopier to make them smaller, so reduce it by 80%, or reduce it to 80% or 60%, and then figure out, so this was my original and I reduced it. And I'm thinking this might be a good size for jewelry making. And then it goes, and I scan it, I measure, scan the model maker, and get sent to the model maker, and voila. So, and then also this. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. But here, for instance, I blow it up to bigger. My original sketch was about this size. I took a photo of it, manipulated it on Photoshop, and that's how I got my piece. My drawing skills are limited. Even though I'm fast and fairly good, I have trouble with the right and left. And it's virtually most artists and even draftsmen have this problem of doing curves, not being able to do the right and the left symmetrically. So what I did here was I did the sketch on this side, and I had one of my friends in the office scan it, flip just the wings so that it's identical. And that was how this was my original design, the sketch, and it came out this way. Now, not everything is organic and easy, I should say. For me, this is very easy to draw. Some of them are very technical. some of them are very difficult to draft. It needs to be precise. And that is what happened with the Trinity Design frames. I wanted holes all the way around, and so I had to draft this, measuring the diameter inside, the number of holes, like this. And then I scan it in, and I have very specific instructions, as well as using a wax model. And that's how I do things like this. Then I also use wax. I love wax. It's like Play-Doh, just for adults. So this is jeweler's wax, and I've in the past manipulated, warmed them up, and casted them. And so the casting ends up looking like this. And I do multiples because they don't always work out. For instance, this didn't survive the casting. I made the jump ring out of wax, and I did the end, except that this collapsed, so it didn't work out. When I get these back, I have them, I use a file, and I slowly get the shape the way I want them. And so I have organic pieces like this, and this has a split ring, and this really, it's almost impossible to draw and to explain to a model maker. So I do this myself because I enjoy it, and that's how I get from here to this to this. And once it's perfect, I'm very happy with it, then I make models of it. Usually there are a number of reiterations. It's time consuming. With respect to, I love cones. I love cones and caps. They just make a simple stone so much prettier. So what I do is I use jeweler's wax in sheets. And in this case, I don't have the pencil here, but I wrapped this over pencil, moved it, and I casted it, and then started filing to make it exactly the way I wanted. So in fact, this didn't make it to, because I cut this part too thin, so this is one of the rejects. But that's approximately how I got from this to this. And oftentimes I cut little petals, and then I put them over, and I fuse the pieces together with a hot needle. So that's how I made this. And this actually I cut these little sheets, and I slowly pasted them on. That's how I got these. Sometimes this is inspired by origami, had sheet folded over a stone. So that's using wax. And sometimes, in the case of these filigree pieces, these beads, I actually I use liquid paper stone that I want the shape. Say for instance, in this case, this was a pearl. I liquid papered the outside so that I've got a white canvas, and then I draw using my pencil the shape. So I want a line like this, and once I have the pattern that I like, I draw that, and from there on I thicken it. I slowly work on it, and this way I can make the lines connect. Whereas if you were to give it to draw on a piece of paper, for the model maker, they wouldn't know how the sides fused. Whereas this, the model maker would be able to line the silver on top and carve something out that matches your design. So that's how I do that. I hope you enjoyed my little demo there, because I can talk about jewelry making and component designs all day long.
I'm very fortunate to be able to do what I do because I love it and I found my calling. In fact, I find component designing far more fulfilling than creating a finished jewelry piece because I enjoy being part of the creative process, thus taking a supportive role in someone else's creations. And it is fulfilling. It's like Christmas every day because I could create a component with some specific functions in mind, and then a designer would blow that all away and create something spectacular, something novel that I did not even dream of. And that is very exciting. It's very exciting work for me, and I love what I do. I certainly hope you enjoy using our components because I've certainly enjoyed designing them.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe to our channel because we've got more how-tos and design projects coming up.